Welcome to my channel where we question everything. Today's topic is military affairs, and if you haven't heard by now, there was a huge explosion on the Kerch bridge, which is basically, as we should all know, the Crimean bridge that connects Crimea with the mainland. Now, my name is Dieter Vromatsky, and I'm speaking from South Africa. And I'm trying to present you some information on what's going on and what has happened. Information is fairly scarce at this stage. But according to The Guardian, and I will leave a link in the description, the Kerch bridge that connects the mainland to Crimea was subject to a sabotage or a huge explosion about 6 o'clock this morning, while a goods train was driving over the bridge. And there is some video available, probably from the security camera. It is a little bit shaky, but if you notice clearly, somebody took a video of his computer screen, and that's where the shaking comes from. And as you can see, there are still some cars driving over the road, on the road. And the explosion basically happened just before they reached that point. I'm not totally sure if these vehicles were affected by the blast, but as you can see, it's quite a significant blast. And then there's some videos that were taken afterwards, where you can see that the road surface or the road part of the bridge has been cleanly cut off. So, and a huge section of the road bridge was now laying in the ocean. And as it pans to the left, you can see some of the train that was affected by the blast. But you will also notice that there was fire on these trucks, and it seems to me they are fuel trucks. And I believe that the main blast occurred on the road section, and the fire ignited the fuel tankers that were passing by, and that's why we had fire on the train. Now you can find a lot of pictures on the internet currently that shows you the smoke and the fire on the trucks, on the railway trucks. And you can also see clearly how the road has been damaged and how it has collapsed. Now, this is a major event. I believe it's even more major than the incorporation of the Donbass and the two provinces into Russia. I think it's even more major event than the blowing up of the Nord Stream pipelines. And the reason why I state this is that the Kerch bridge is a symbol of Putin's achievement and the reunification of Crimea with Russia. And this is how do you call it, a landmark of high aanzien. What is it? It's a suppose, well, that's an Afrikaans word, but it's of high, it's a symbol of the power of Russia and the unification, and I believe it's something personal to Putin. But as we have also read many times in the Ukrainian newspapers in the world, the Ukrainians has always threatened to destroy that bridge, because it has a huge psychological impact on the Russian population and the government. And in the same way, they will have a huge impact on the Ukrainian defense and the population, and even the support of the Western countries. So the Ukrainians have always asked the Americans to supply them with long-range missiles, and they always wanted to attack Crimea, and they always stated clearly that they want to attack the breach. And what amazes me actually, that since it's such a strategic infrastructure for the Russians, not only because of its symbolism, but also because there are two train rails going over the bridge. And if I would have, from a military point of view, that would be a significant supply route to Crimea and to the war effort, the Russian war effort in east of Ukraine. So losing that bridge would have been a major setback. Luckily, it was only the road that was severed. The railway section probably can be repaired fairly easy, and the railway system will still be able to function over that section. But like I said, what amazed me is that this strategic, high-valued asset was not properly protected by any military personnel. And in my opinion, that's another failure of the Russian army or military command. The least you could have done is put some, I mean, we have talked about Izium, and everybody has stated that the Izium was only defended by home guards, which is not the same as the American home guards, but is more of a police force. And that was given as one of the reasons why the Ukrainians could conquer or occupy Izium so fast, because the people are not really trained. Now the question really arises, why do you have the Russian version of the Home Guard on the front line, which is supposed to be a police force, and you don't have the same type of police force guarding the Kherson Bridge? What makes it even more damaging to the view of the Russians is that we had a recent sabotage of the Nord Stream pipelines. And the emphasis should be here placed on the sabotage effect. That means clandestine operations. And whoever executed that sabotage had the necessary skills and the necessary willpower to do it. Now, I have provided and discussed alternative culprits in the sabotaging of the Nord Stream pipelines. And I also pointed out that, you know, the obvious culprits for that sabotage would have been the Americans. And I said, no, there are various other options and various actors that can actually have executed that sabotage. And why would America really do it if their first accusation would be make them suspicious? You know, that's a very dangerous act if you do it. But I thought to myself, okay, the Americans lie constantly, and they probably believe that if they can fool the world by the weapon of mass destruction in Iraq and the justification of the destruction of attack of Iraq, then they might have been gullible enough to try their propaganda again. But in any case, there are valid other actors for the Nord Stream pipeline. And this attack on the Kherson Bridge, or Kerch Bridge, now brings those, emphasizes or gives a lot of more credibility to other actors on the Nord Stream pipeline. And as I have indicated in that video, the Poles, or Poland, the Polish government, however you want to call them, have good reasoning motive for sabotaging the Nord Stream pipeline. And since the Kerch Bridge was blown up, it would have been Ukrainian special forces or saboteurs or whatever you want to call them. So the possibility that the Nord Stream pipeline was now sabotaged, I would have liked to present that it was Ukrainian special forces or saboteurs together with the Polish government and their military specialist. Or at least the Polish government knew about this, the sabotage on the Nord Stream. But be that as it may, this is a huge setback for the Russians in prestige and credibility. Now, we've all been pro-Russians, punters. We have been talking the same narrative. And my last couple of videos, I addressed the danger of this constant same narrative. And not looking at other events that is currently happening. The Ukrainians are still progressing in the Kerch region. They're still winning ground. They're still progressing in the northern France, in the Kharkiv region. The Russians have withdrawn from that, I think the river is called Oskil riverbank, and they have retreated. And as I stated in my previous videos, a retreat is nothing more than a defeat. However you look at it. The only difference between a retreat and a defeat is that you don't lose the manpower. And you only retreat if you can move to a position that is more strategically advantageous to defend. And that you have made the necessary preparation for that defense. So if you retreat into an unprepared defense line, or you move into a position that is more difficult to defend, then you haven't retreated effectively, because then you have to retreat again. And that is currently what is happening. Now, think about the effect of these events. Firstly, you have the Nord Stream pipeline being blown up. Then you have the advance of the Ukrainians on the battlefront. And they do exceed, and one has to recognize it and give credit where credit is due. They are advancing. And are the Russians retreating? Yes, they are retreating, which means a defeat on the battlefield. And now you have the event of the Kerch bridge being destroyed by Ukrainian forces. I have no doubt about that. And that's another setback in terms of the effect it will have on the Russian psychic, the population, on the morale of the troops. Make no mistake about that. Now you can turn the soldiers' morale, and the population, you can actually turn around. You can make it from a negative view into, if you do the necessary psych-ops, you can convert that into an aggressive attitude from the soldiers. Like they want to take revenge. So you boost that idea of revenge. Kill, 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 kill. Take revenge for all the setbacks that you have. And then you can motivate the troops. But given the history, or given the observation for the last couple of months and so on, the propaganda part of the Russian offense is totally lacking and totally inadequate. And they don't say a lot. And discontent in the Russian population is increasing. Precisely the effect that the Ukrainian command wants. Now, think about the whole military situation in any case. Are we not in agreement that military offense and so on is orchestrated and controlled by the American military command? Shouldn't you start viewing the whole offense in terms of the American command structure and step away from Zelensky? It's just a puppet. And then you review your assessment on what's going on. And, just typical, the offense in the south and the offense in the north is a typical example of divide and conquer. Or you can also say shifting the focus. Start an attack here at the bottom and then force the Russians to look at that attack, and then they lose their eye on the ball in the north, and that's where you progress. And at this stage, the Ukrainian army have already conquered territory in the Lugansk and in the Donetsk. So now one has to look back at the Kerch event. Firstly, it is a serious setback for the Russian command and for Putin personally, in his personal capacity. That is the one thing. Now, I've read some comments on various articles. I can't remember which article it was, but the commentator basically stated that Russia said that an attack on Russian territory will have serious consequences, and they will attack the command structure of the Ukrainian forces. And we are not talking about the guys on the front. We are talking about the guys in Kiev. And what did the Ukrainians do? They sent missiles into Russian territory, the original Russia. And they killed a couple of Russians on their home ground. And nothing happened. And then the Ukrainians started their sabotage efforts, and they bombed Crimea, and nothing happened. And then the Ukrainian forces attacked the Crimea, an airfield in the Crimea, and apparently some Russian aircrafts were damaged, and nothing happened. And now the two provinces and the oblasts and the two republics are now part of Russia, and it's now Russian soil, and the Ukrainians are advancing, and nothing is happening. And now the Nord Stream pipeline, which is a Russian asset, is destroyed, and nothing happens. The Russians don't react. So Putin's threat is called a bluff. And it is precisely what happened. That emboldened the Ukrainian command, or the American command, which I just said. And now you have the attack on the Kherson bridge, Kerch bridge. Sorry. And now the question is Russia going to react? And we're going to wait all in anticipation. Because Russia has to react. And not tomorrow, and not on Monday, and not on Tuesday. Today, they have to react. The targets should have been identified a long time ago. The necessary plans for this type of retaliation should have been in place a long time ago. And it is now to send a couple of precision missiles to Kiev and attack the command center. And I'm talking about I think it's SBU, the Special Forces concentrations, and Zelensky's office. And if there are any American advisors, those two as well. And then they must, and I'm stressing again, must attack critical infrastructure that only affects the northern and western part of Ukraine. Create a blackout. Winter is coming. Show them, the Russians must show them they are serious. Now we put a lot of faith into the Russian command and army. Putin has celebrated his 70th birthday apparently yesterday. And, just for the sakes, we talk about the story that, the Russians do not have any propaganda, for their population. They make no effort of providing any information. And we all know that there's very dangerous approach. And it's actually, you cannot do that. Wars are fought on a battlefield, on an economic front, on a propaganda front. You have to do it. And it seems to me that Russians are neglecting that part. A seriously mistake from their part, on their side. Now, we also know that there are a lot of legislation that prevents any fake news, which in effect propaganda is. So maybe that's the reason why they don't want to do it. But come on, you can't go on like this. And just for interest sakes, because nobody really talks about that. There was the two Chechnyan wars. The first Chechnyan war was a total failure for the Russian command and the military. You can read up about that. Read up a little bit more in detail on how the war progressed and why the Russians lost. And they were nearly losing on the second one as well until Putin took over and they changed their doctrines or their strategies and they went in and they conquered it. So the Russian military wasn't that clued up for the Chechen war. And now we look at, if you read up about the Russian intervention in Ossetia, it's also not hunky-dory. Okay, 15 Russian soldiers died or something like that. But go read about it, how the war progressed and what really happened and, you know, how this... It was a miracle actually that the Russians won there, because the Georgian military made some huge mistakes. But it was also not hunky-dory. It's not that the military command of the Russians are supermen. You've got to read a little bit further and other sources and so on, and then make your own strategic analysis. Yes, we are calling ourselves armchair generals. Then state you're an armchair general. So again, like yesterday, there was no, I'm not going to talk about that now. We'll do another video. The bottom line is the Kerch bridge has been blown up. That's a hell of a setback in prestige for the Russian government and the army. And if heads don't, what are you going to say, chopped off now, if there is no change in the military command now, then I don't see much progress or chances. The mobilization of the 300,000 troops are way too late. Now you sit up with a problem that you want to train these 300,000 soldiers. Yes, they have experience, so you want to retrain them for a month. And in a month's time we have winter. But if you listen to crosstalk videos, then commentators on those crosstalk videos of RT always state, yes, Russia has the time and the clock, and the Ukrainians don't have it. No. Forget about that issue. The Ukrainians have taken the clock back, and the Russians are running out of time. The Ukrainians have accumulated huge numbers of soldiers. Huge numbers. And the Russians haven't done that. So one has to ask yourself, so what is Russia going to do? You're going to react now, not tomorrow, not on Monday. You're going to react now. And that, then I have only one suggestion for these guys, for the Russian command. Forget about your 300,000 soldiers. Train them if you need them. But you have a million soldiers as a reserve. And that is your standing army. And those guys are supposed to be professional. The same guys, type of guys that are now on the front. And withdraw 300,000 of those men, the professional army, and bring them together with their equipment their tanks and the APCs and the cannons and whatever, right on a train and drive there for 2-3 days and bring the equipment to the front. Drop them into a safe position where they cannot be attacked by Ukrainians, and from there on they are deployed, pre-planned positions by the current or the new military command, and you have 4 or 5 days to do that. That's it. And then you go train your 300,000 reserves, and you put them into the positions which have now been vacated by the professional army. I'm sorry, you cannot wait another 4 weeks. In 4 weeks' time, you're going to have lost a lot of ground, which you all have to recapture again. And those lines will be defended because it is regions that were prepared by the Ukrainians before you even started the SMO. So, let's see what's going to happen. Whether there's going to be finally a change in the attitude of the Russians. We always say the gloves must come off. Gloves must come off. Well, when are they going to come off? We have seen no evidence. And I actually forgot about to mention, you know that, what is it, just quickly go on there. Yeah, the Moskva flagship of the Russian Navy Black Sea. So now sabotage becomes a much bigger reason for that sinking of that ship. And again, Russia at that stage did nothing. They came up with this stupid excuse of an ammunition storage area, there was a fire and exploded. And we gave them a benefit of the doubt. And if it happened, then it happened like that. But it didn't happen like that. Then that should have been already a wake-up call. But we saw no reaction. And then some other stuff explodes, and then we get another excuse that it was a civilian problem or a fuel tank that was exploded or some trains that exploded. And it's all non-war orientated. And now we have to ask the question, do you still believe this nonsense? In a previous video, I talked about the Russian Defense Department that each day gives you the rundown on how many Ukrainian soldiers have died and how much equipment was destroyed and how much aircraft were destroyed. And, well, we're now in the 8th month, and the way that I see it is like a scorecard being filled in. And the numbers don't make any sense because it is way more than what the Ukrainian army even started with, or any other information is provided that was delivered by the West. So I don't know where they get their fingers on, but I'm starting to doubt about that. I've seen them many times, also videos about where they bomb artillery positions. Yeah, it was at the start when the Americans delivered the 777s. Then you see them move on the road, they are towed, and then they go into a forest, and then so you see some explosion, which is the artillery shells, on the assumed position of the 777s. And the Russians probably counted that as a destruction of the 777s, but there's no evidence for that. You know, it's easy to make assumptions based on videos and so on, but you know, you're not there on the ground. In any case, this is a huge problem. And I'll give the Russians time until tomorrow morning. And then I will make up my mind. So all I'm trying to do is give you an alternative view. Question the narrative, which has become complacent. The pundits have become complacent. They have consistently stuck with their original narrative, although the situation on the ground has changed. So one has to be careful. Hopefully I made a contribution. You can watch a lot of videos. I showed you some videos. So we will wait until we hear more. But the bottom line is there's nothing much more to hear. The bridge has been blown up. Who did it? The Ukrainians. Who else? So why do you want to know more? That's my story for today. If you like what you heard, please press the like or dislike button. And please subscribe to the channel. Let us grow. And until next time, cheers.